The answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
This was the most painful moment in the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers. The kid from Akron, the supposed hometown hero, the chosen one, the guy who made the promise, leaves the team that drafted him in the middle of his prime to go team up with his friends in South Beach. It was an unprecedented move, and one that sparked an avalanche of hate, making LeBron one of the most hated athletes of all time and the most hated athlete at the time. However, with the power of hindsight, most came to the realization that LeBron was well within reason to leave the Cavaliers. In the 7 seasons that LeBron was on the Cavs for his first stint, the team managed to get 2 total All-Star appearances worth of help around him, and those were fringe All-Star appearances at that. Those players being Mo Williams and Zydrunas Ilgauskas, being 1- and 2-time All-Stars respectively, aka they barely fit the criteria. Neither of them even cracked 20 points per game. While some rosters were unfairly treated as worse than they actually were in hindsight, especially for their defensive capability, ultimately the help around LeBron never came anywhere close to acceptable for a talent of his caliber. Of course, he would come back to Cleveland after winning in Miami, and he would win them the ring that he promised, and ultimately undo the damage that he did with his departure and then some, with that ring potentially being the most valuable ring in the history of the game. But the loss of LeBron was still a major blunder on the Cavs, and it's still something I'm sure they wish they could take back, even if it did get a happy ending. Because even though a championship is a championship, only winning one with LeBron having spent 11 years in total there, well, that's kind of an L. So for that reason, we're going to rewind back to the start of the 2009 season, and we're going to do things differently. Why this date specifically? Well, back in the 2009-2010 season, there was a real opportunity for the Cavaliers to land themselves a star player to pair with LeBron, and they simply failed to make it happen. Literally right as LeBron was about to leave, they had an opportunity to get him a talent that could have convinced him to stay, or more realistically at least made it harder for him to leave. He couldn't exactly argue he had no help with one of the league's top players on his roster, so either he would stay or face even more severe backlash for leaving. But that star player in question was Amar'e Stoudemire, who, similar to LeBron, was also on an expiring contract and was poised to leave his team in the upcoming offseason. Amar'e was at his peak at the time this deal would have gone down. He was a 25-10 big man who was one of the best pick and roll bigs of all time, not to mention him having some creating ability himself, as well as a solid mid-range game. Defensively, he could block shots, but overall was not amazing on that end, but a great pick and roll and interior finisher. He could have developed a great 2-man game with LeBron. Amar'e was on the trade block because he was on a 1-year deal and the Suns were going nowhere but down. But believe me, him being on the block was by no means a commentary on his talent as a player. The Suns just didn't want to lose him for nothing. The real-life offer was J.J. Hickson, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, and the 2010 Cavaliers first-round pick. J.J. Hickson was a young forward who had a lot of value at the time. Zydrunas was old at this point, so really just salary filler, and of course a first-round pick is a first-round pick. Now, what went wrong in this deal? Who said no to who? Well, those details are not a matter of public record, though many believe it was the Cavs who shut this down, wanting to keep J.J. Hickson, who was considered a valuable young piece at the time in case LeBron left. They feared giving up assets for the future, given the possibility of LeBron and Amar'e just simply leaving anyway. The irony there being that by not pulling the trigger, you made your very fear a reality. One often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it. Should have watched Kung Fu Panda, Dan Gilbert. But as little as is known about the back and forth of that deal that ultimately fell short, what we do know with the power of hindsight is that the Cavs and Suns both should have done this deal. Amar'e could have been the ticket to keep LeBron in Cleveland, as he was the first genuine star he'd play with, and well worth the risk of losing J.J. Hickson of all people. But even more significantly on the Suns Suns side, they wound up losing Amari for nothing anyways, so it only makes sense to get something in return. Even if JJ Hickson did not amount to much, even just him and eventually just that first round pick, it would be better than literally nothing. So we're doing this trade with one small adjustment. I am also throwing in recent signing Channing Frye into the deal, and in return we are going to be including 2 second-round picks to compensate. Channing had just joined the Suns fresh off of a season of averaging 4 points per game, so his value wasn't exactly high at this time. He actually broke out with the Suns later on down the line, but we're snagging him before he could have that chance to increase his value. I think as a stretch big man, he could provide some serious help, especially being that we're lacking in forward depth, and he has the versatility to play the center spot if necessary. The trade goes through, and to start off the 2009 season, we have a starting lineup of Mo Williams, Anthony Parker, LeBron James, Channing Frye, and Amari Stoudemire. Yes, I will be playing Amari at the 5 spot. He is a bit undersized, but this is a fairly weak era for the center position, so I think we'll live. If we have to go big, we do have that size on our bench as an option. But all that aside, it's official. Amari Stoudemire is a Cleveland Cavalier. LeBron James has his star teammate. Now it's just a matter of if it's enough to keep him around, though believe me, this roster is far from a finished product. The shooting guard position for one is really questionable. We have Delonte West, who is a bit of an all-around scorer, Anthony Parker, who is our best shooter but does little else, and a rookie Danny Green, who I think is deserving of opportunity given his upside as a defender, especially being that outside of LeBron we are entirely lacking in defensive players, but none of those options are particularly appealing to me. We also have little bench depth, and I don't necessarily know that Mo Williams is confidently the best option to be the 3rd star on this team. We're gonna have to wait and see on that one, I suppose. But enough of that negative stuff. We just put together what should be, if not the best, at the very least one of the best duos in the league, and that sure as hell reason to be excited. But as for that negative stuff, we're going to address that in the next episode. Now listen to what I'm about to say because this is really important. Episode 2 of this series is available over on my 2K channel that is called just simply Rusty. All the links will be in the description and pinned comment. I like to upload episode 1 over here just to get people to head over to that channel. So if this series intrigues you, go watch episode 2 and subscribe to my 2K channel so the series can continue. I do need this series to get enough support to justify the time it takes me to make them. So seriously, if you enjoy these realistic rebuild type videos, I need you to show up for me and show support by dropping likes and subscribing and all of that. I plan on doing a lot with 2K23 this year, especially if it ends up being a good game, including a player lock series with 2011 Derrick Rose. I'll also be doing some quicker rebuilds, like 1 video type rebuilds. I'm probably going to be doing live streams if I can figure out how to set everything up. In fact, I plan on the Derrick Rose series hopefully being live streamed, and then I would cut it down and upload it as like stream highlights. But yeah, I plan on doing a lot with 2K this year, so go subscribe to that channel and continue on with the series. All that. It is much appreciated, and that is it. Goodbye.